What's up guys, macadii here. Now today I'm bringing you guys a brand new episode of macadii Muses where what we're going to be doing is actually having a think about whether critical hits should be removed in the next generation. Now I'm fully aware that it is very unlikely that this will happen, but especially after my last Sticky Web live in the second part where I lost probably 2 games due to very unfortunate timed crits, it made me think, actually what would happen if we did want to remove critical hits from the game? And this is more of a sort of thought experiment rather than something that I know is going to be implemented. So I hope you guys do enjoy these sorts of things. But anyway, what we're going to do is actually jump straight into it. And first of all, we're going to have a quick sort of run through about what sort of things critical hits do. So first of all, they do 1.5 times damage unless you've got the sniper ability, which means you're hitting at 2.25 times damage. On top of this as well, any negative stat boosts from the attacker are ignored, and any positive stat boosts from the defender are also ignored. So that means if they've got loads and loads of defense boosts and you've got loads and loads of attack drops, those things are ignored, and then when you hit them, it will do 1.5 times damage as if you were both at 0. On top of this as well, it ignores light screen and reflect, but does not ignore burn, Eviolite, defeatist, and the special defense boost that rock types get, and then finally slow start as well for Regigigas. Not that anyone really uses it that often, but anyway, my way of feeling is that you can't really remove crits. And what we're going to do is actually jump into my thoughts on the advantages and disadvantages of removing critical hits from the game. So first of all, with the advantages, first thing it does do is it does actually remove the amount of luck that's in the game. It arguably makes it more skill based, so by sort of balancing that out, and with Pokemon being very much sort of skill, and you kind of want to be reducing the amount of luck. So there is a sort of argument towards that, where if you've got a skill player and a less skilled player, and the skill player's winning, but then inopportune crit makes them lose the game, is that really fair? Should we really reduce that? On top of this as well, people do say that sort of you do need these crits to try and stop defensive setup and stuff like that, but then the argument against that is, well, surely you don't need crits. If you're relying on crits to actually beat defensive setup, isn't that a bit of a problem anyway? You shouldn't really be relying on that. You should have other answers to it. It does mean also that less games are then lost because of inopportune hacks and things like that, and you also then have a really good idea of whether a switch is safe or not. So say for example, you know you can live a hit even if that thing is max special attack specs, and you switch it in and they get a crit, and then you're 2-hit KO'd or you're just OHKO'd from there. And those sorts of things do make a huge amount of difference when it comes to battling, and that would obviously be removed once we get rid of crits. The disadvantages that I found is, first of all, it does heavily favour defensive setup, and actually might cause quite a big metagame shift towards there, where we're going to get things like Calm Mind, Clefable, Registeel with sort of Amnesia and Iron Defense and the such like. Now, if we have a think about Crowbro is just so threatening because of the fact it gets Shell Armor, where you cannot get hit by critical hits. Now imagine this, where every single mon gets the equivalent of Shell Armor on top of that. So you've got things like Silliglyph, which gets Magic Guard, so you cannot burn it, you cannot Toxic it, or Leech Seed it, or do anything like that. But on top of that as well, it gets Shell Armor. So once it starts setting up, that's it. You've got to try and either phase it, or haze it, or do something like that. So moving on, we've got, I just mentioned this, I believe that then phasing and also hazing will become much more valuable, and almost every team will be forced to run it. But then it still does cause problems where a lot of the common phasers do struggle with the actual defensive setup sweepers and can't even break them outside of the boosts as well. And especially if that's the last mon alive and it starts setting up, there's not much you can do in terms of phasing. You do then have to rely on haze instead. Games can also still be lost to hacks as well, because we've got things like Ice Punch freezes, you've got Skull Burns, you've got lots and lots of moves with secondary effects, and it's that sort of same slippery slope argument where if you're removing crits, which only do have a 6.25% chance of actually happening, should you remove all hacks as well? Say for example, a Fire Blast. If you do a Fire Blast on a mon and you burn it, that's really unfortunate, but actually that's more likely to happen than you landing a crit. So if we're removing crits, which are very low chances of happening, shouldn't we be removing secondary effects as well? It's just, yeah, that's part of my real problem with this, is that hacks isn't just critical hits, it's a whole range of other things. And by removing crits, you've got to then try and justify why you're not removing other sources of hacks as well. And then finally, there's also the question of, would actually removing all the hacks make it a very, very stale metagame, where you've just got loads and loads of defensive setup, and you've just got to try and sort of break through these things. We all know how hard it is to try and beat things like Calm Mind Reuniclus, Calm Mind Clefable, and yeah, Magic Backguard. Yeah, it's just not pleasant at all. So my way of feeling is that crits are very, very integral to the game, and while it does mean that we have much more of a luck sort of focus with the game as well as skill, I think it's a very good trade-off, because it does stop things like setup and yeah, just there's so many other bits of hacks that are technically should be looked at before we even consider crits. But anyway, I hope you guys do enjoy this sort of little thought experiment that I had. If I have missed anything out, or you think of anything that you think, removing crits would, would actually do, then do let me know down in the comment section below. I would really appreciate that. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to leave a like, and I will see you guys at the next one. Macadii out.